We'll call and we'll chat and we'll talk about silly things. And they were pretty serious on the phone. I go, okay, what's going on? And they said, well, we'd like for you to be Lily's godfather. I go,
Prince Harry thought his life in America was finally settling. New home, new identity, new chapter. But all it took was one unexpected confession, one explosive disclosure from Tyler Perry to send everything crashing down. Suddenly, secrets Harry never wanted exposed were dragged into the spotlight, and the world realized the truth he's been hiding for years. This isn't just drama. This is the moment Harry's entire life starts falling apart. Stay locked in, because it only gets darker from here.
I got off the phone, took it all in, then I called him back. I go, hold on a second. Does this mean we got to go over there and do all of that in the church with them and figure all that out? Because I don't want to do that.
The unraveling started quietly. No headlines, no breaking news alerts, no dramatic footage. Just whispers. Whispers that something had shifted in the carefully crafted world of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But whispers don't stay quiet for long, especially when they involve a royal living in exile. And this time, the whispers had a name attached: Tyler Perry. At first, it sounded harmless. Tyler had always been painted as the couple's guardian angel, the man who opened his home to them when things fell apart. But recently, Perry made a comment, one that carried more weight than he intended. A comment that didn't sound rehearsed, a comment that revealed things nobody outside their private circle was supposed to know. And once the public heard it, everything changed. It wasn't the wording that shocked people. It was the tone. The way Tyler spoke about the couple didn't sound like admiration anymore. It sounded like someone who had seen too much, done too much, and finally decided to tell the truth. A truth Harry and Meghan fought desperately to keep hidden. Suddenly, analysts, commentators, podcasters, everyone started asking the same question. Why now? Why would Tyler Perry, one of the most loyal figures in their circle, suddenly reveal cracks in the Sussex story? What did he know that the public didn't? And why was Harry looking more stressed and unstable in recent appearances?
I'd take a minute to take that in.
As the questions spread, more pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. People remembered Harry's strange interviews, his defensive tone, his constant deflection whenever the topic turned toward pressure, anxiety, or family issues. They remembered the awkward moment he refused to give Meghan full credit for their escape, hinting that someone else had been responsible. And now everyone realized exactly who he was talking about: Tyler Perry. But that wasn't the real story. What shook the public was the implication behind Perry's words that Harry and Meghan weren't victims running from a cruel institution. They were two people out of their depth, leaning on Perry far more than anyone realized. He wasn't just offering them a house, he was offering them direction, guidance, stability. And now, it was clear that stability came with a price. As Perry's comments spread, reporters dove deeper, pulling up old statements, matching timelines, and uncovering a pattern Harry hoped no one would ever see. Every major turning point in his new life had Tyler Perry's fingerprints on it. The move, the legal battles, the emotional support, the image management, everything. And that's when people began questioning the one thing Harry never wanted questioned. Was he ever actually in control of his own life? Because once Tyler Perry spoke, one thing became undeniable.
The first 6 weeks that we were here,
Yeah.
we were able to walk around like this.
Yeah.
And the two of us would be up here, Archie sort of like with our hand, walking along here.
Yeah.
Harry wasn't the bold rebel prince carving his own destiny. He was a man being held together by someone else's stability. And now that stability was cracking. Tyler Perry's unexpected disclosure didn't just raise questions, it triggered an earthquake. Suddenly, people began looking at Harry through a new lens, not as a confident, outspoken prince who broke from the crown to build a better life, but as a man who had never stood on his own without someone holding him up. And the more the public dug, the more they realized just how much Perry had been holding together behind the scenes. For years, Perry was painted as the generous friend who stepped in during the darkest moment of Harry and Meghan's lives. But now, the narrative was shifting. Tyler wasn't just a friend, he was a lifeline. A lifeline Harry depended on far more than anyone ever realized. The safe home, the security team, the network of people who could silence trouble, the emotional support Harry couldn't find anywhere else. Perry provided all of it, but that support came with responsibility, and now it seemed like Perry was finally cracking under the pressure. In his disclosure, Perry didn't sound angry, he sounded exhausted, like a man who had carried a secret for too long. Like someone who had watched Harry spiral and could no longer pretend things were fine. His tone reflected something deeper than frustration. It reflected concern, maybe even regret. That tone haunted the public. If Tyler Perry, the man who stepped in when everyone else stepped back, was breaking his silence, then the situation must be far worse than anyone imagined. People began revisiting old moments, Harry crying in interviews, Harry snapping at reporters, Harry contradicting himself, Harry blaming the media, the monarchy, his trauma, anything but the choices he made. At the time, those moments seemed like emotional honesty. Now they looked like signs of someone unraveling.
You hadn't seen the house, just video of it.
We only saw you filming from the gate up to your door and seeing the big fountain there. We're like, that'll do.
Meanwhile, Meghan's behavior came under new scrutiny. Her calm, confident public appearances contrasted sharply with Harry's melting composure. The dynamic was impossible to ignore. She looked composed, while he looked overwhelmed. And Tyler Perry's words only added fuel to the speculation. Behind closed doors, insiders claimed Harry struggled with decision-making, stress, and constant emotional swings. They said he relied heavily on Meghan for guidance, but even she couldn't stabilize him during their toughest periods. That's when Perry stepped in, not just as a friend, but almost as a crisis manager. But now, it appeared Perry was stepping back. His disclosure wasn't just a comment, it was a warning, a signal that he was no longer willing to carry the emotional weight of two people who used him as their escape plan. And as Perry pulled away, everything surrounding Harry began to fall apart. His public image, his emotional stability, the illusion of independence he tried so hard to protect. The truth was becoming harder to deny. Harry had never truly adjusted to life outside the palace. He had swapped one form of dependence for another. And when Tyler finally stepped out of the shadows, the scaffolding holding Harry together shook violently. Now the world was left wondering, if Perry was done holding him up, what would Harry's life look like without him? As Tyler Perry's revelation spread, the internet shifted its focus from Harry's emotional instability to something even more alarming: how deeply Harry had relied on a man who was never meant to be his permanent support system.
What if I had horrible taste and had big round beds and stripper poles and everything?
It wouldn't have mattered. We were desperate to find someone, desperate to be somewhere for, to settle.
People began to realize that Perry didn't just shelter the couple, he shielded them from the consequences of their own decisions. And once Perry stepped back, Harry was exposed in a way he'd never been before. Commentators began piecing together the timeline. The moment Harry and Meghan left the UK, Perry swooped in with a mansion, security, and resources that would have cost the pair millions. At the time, it seemed like an act of kindness. But the more people reviewed the events, the more it appeared that Harry had been utterly unprepared for life outside the monarchy. No plan, no structure, no sense of reality, just fear, adrenaline, and the hope that America would magically fix everything. Perry became the glue that held Harry's life together. Every legal battle, every public move, every emotional meltdown that needed smoothing over. And now, the world understood why Perry's tone had shifted. He had become the unofficial crisis handler for a man who couldn't manage his own crisis. Reports began resurfacing about Harry's behavior during their stay. Stories of him pacing around late at night, snapping at staff, breaking down emotionally over small things, feeling trapped in the very freedom he fought for. It painted a picture of someone completely overwhelmed, someone who never expected independence to require so much independence. And as Perry hinted at these moments, the public finally grasped a truth Harry hoped would stay buried. He didn't leave the royal family as a strong rebel. He left as a man in survival mode. Now, with Perry stepping back, cracks began showing everywhere. Harry's interviews became inconsistent. His statements contradicted previous ones. He jumped from blaming the royal family to blaming the media to blaming his past. Anything to avoid admitting the simple truth: he wasn't prepared to live without structure. Meanwhile, Meghan's role grew more complicated. Many noticed that as Harry unraveled, Meghan seemed to detach emotionally. She maintained poise in every public appearance, always collected, always articulate, while Harry appeared more lost with each passing month. The imbalance was impossible to ignore. And Tyler Perry's comments didn't just spotlight Harry, they highlighted how Meghan had become the stabilizer, the strategist, the one carrying the weight Harry couldn't. But even she couldn't carry all of it. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. Insiders claimed Harry's anxiety had worsened. He struggled to adjust to American culture. He missed the protection of the palace, he questioned his own decisions, and now, without Perry's safety net, those issues were becoming unmanageable. The public started asking questions Harry never wanted to face. What happens when the one person holding you together lets go? What happens when the world sees the truth you've tried to hide? What happens when freedom doesn't feel like freedom anymore? For Harry, the answer was becoming painfully clear. Without Tyler Perry absorbing the shock, his entire life began to collapse. As the shockwaves from Tyler Perry's disclosure continued spreading, Harry's world began collapsing in places the public couldn't see, but could definitely feel. Every new interview, every public appearance, every slip in his tone revealed the same thing. Harry was unraveling. Not dramatically, not explosively, But slowly, like a thread being pulled from a sweater, he didn't know how to mend. People started noticing how different Harry looked, not physically, emotionally. His once confident expressions were replaced with worry. His voice, once firm and rebellious, now wavered with uncertainty. His attempts to explain his choices no longer sounded powerful. They sounded defensive, confused, sometimes even desperate. And every time he talked, Tyler Perry's words echoed in the background, exposing the emotional chaos Harry tried so hard to suppress. Meanwhile, questions about Harry and Meghan's marriage intensified, not because people wanted drama, but because the dynamic between them was becoming impossible to ignore. Every time Harry appeared stressed, Meghan remained composed. Every time he stumbled through a statement, Meghan delivered polished sound bites. Commentators began pointing out how disconnected they seemed, like two people living the same life but fighting different battles. And the more Perry's comments spread, the more people realized why. Harry and Meghan weren't partners fighting side by side. They were a couple carrying entirely different weights. Meghan carried the strategy, the direction, the planning. Harry carried the emotional chaos, the regret, the fear of what came next. With Perry stepping back, that imbalance only grew wider. Inside Hollywood circles, whispers began circulating about Harry's frustration behind closed doors, that he felt lost, that he couldn't adapt to the expectations Meghan had embraced so easily, that he missed structure, something he once hated but now desperately needed. Tyler Perry had provided that structure temporarily, but Harry never found a way to rebuild it on his own. As the public dug deeper, more red flags began appearing. Harry's new friendships seemed shallow and short-lived. His business deals stalled or failed. His projects lacked direction. His interviews sounded rehearsed, then scattered. It was chaos disguised as freedom. And Tyler Perry's disclosure ripped the disguise off entirely. Insiders described Perry as heartbroken by what he'd witnessed. Harry's emotional volatility, his confusion, his inability to make decisions without leaning on others. They said Perry felt he had been carrying the emotional load of two people who never stopped needing him. And eventually, he reached his limit. When Perry pulled back, everything Harry depended on vanished at the same time. The emotional support, the stabilizing voice, the sense of safety he didn't find anywhere else. Not in California, not in Montecito, not even in his marriage. With that safety net gone, Harry's struggles became impossible to hide. Every interview felt heavier, every public moment felt forced. Every decision looked rushed or reactive. People no longer saw a prince rebuilding his life. They saw a man losing his grip on it. And the scariest part? This wasn't the end of the collapse. This was only the middle, because Tyler Perry wasn't the only person stepping back. Tyler Perry's disclosure didn't just expose Harry's fragile emotional state, it triggered something far bigger, a chain reaction of people quietly distancing themselves from the prince. And once Perry stepped back, others felt no obligation to stay close either. Suddenly, Harry found himself surrounded by fading alliances, strained friendships, and Hollywood circles that no longer viewed him as useful, interesting, or stable. Producers who once saw potential in working with the Sussexes reportedly stepped away. Their initial projects fizzled out, their partnerships thinned. Even media outlets that once championed them began shifting tone, covering Harry less like a bold truth-teller and more like a man stumbling through crisis after crisis. The image he tried so hard to build, rebellious, free, forward-thinking, now looked fractured and uncertain. Then came the final blow, the realization that Harry had misread America. He expected unconditional support, endless opportunities, and a world that would embrace him as the escaped prince. But America wasn't the safety net he imagined. It didn't shield him from criticism. It didn't protect him from failure. It didn't fill the void left by the royal structure he once rejected. And Tyler Perry's comments confirmed what many suspected. Harry wasn't thriving in the US, he was surviving. As fan discussions evolved, people began analyzing Harry not as a royal, but as a struggling husband and father trying to hold himself together. They noticed how often he contradicted himself, how quickly he shifted blame, how lost he seemed when Meghan wasn't guiding the conversation. And Perry's words made it painfully clear why. Harry had never learned to stand alone. In private, insiders claimed Harry reached out to old friends in the UK, people he once trusted, but many had grown distant after years of feeling pushed away. Others worried he was reaching a breaking point. Rumors swirled that even Meghan was becoming overwhelmed, that she had grown tired of carrying the emotional weight of the marriage, that she wanted stability, but Harry couldn't provide it. Tyler Perry's disclosure was only one conversation, but it was enough to expose years of hidden struggle. It revealed how deeply Harry depended on others to function. It revealed how quickly his stability evaporated without support. And most of all, it revealed a truth Meghan didn't want publicly discussed. Harry wasn't the strong, independent man she presented him as. He was someone still searching for direction. As the dust settled, one question echoed across social media, podcasts, and commentary channels. What happens to Prince Harry now? With Perry stepping back and Hollywood losing interest, the answer didn't look promising. Harry had burned bridges in the UK and failed to build solid ones in the US. He was caught between two worlds, belonging fully to neither. And with every new revelation, the cracks in his new life grew wider. The same man who believed he was escaping the palace had ended up trapped in a different kind of cage, one built from instability, emotional turmoil, and fading support. And now the world watched as the final chapter of this collapse unfolded. Because if Tyler Perry's disclosure was the spark, Harry's unraveling was the wildfire.